Hi, welcome to today's video and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about this important video, how we saved $823,000 in taxes for this retired firefighter. Okay, this, you have to watch the beginning of this video. I'm going to be sharing with you an interview by our client. His name is Thomas. He called me up and he said, well, actually it was at the last meeting, and then he said, when are you coming down? So he said to me, you got to tell people about this transformation of my retirement plan. People have to see how this works and how you were able to save me $823,000. I want you to come down to see me, and I'm going to record my voice and just share how I felt about before I met you and what I was worrying about, and then how I feel now. And so I'm going to be playing this excerpt. Stick with it. It's a 5-minute not interview, but just allowing Tom to just say how he felt about everything. So stick with it. It's 5 minutes, and then I'm going to share with you after that exactly how I helped Tom save $823,000. So you ready for it? So as always, put your comments below. And by the way, a little tip here, he goes off on the government. He tells about CPP, how he feels about CPP and the government and what they do, and how retirees are not getting paid attention to the way they ought to be. So you're going to love an authentic conversation with my client. Are you ready for this? Okay, let's hear.
Well, first off, the people I had in looking after my investments before, I just went to a big meeting that they had held dinner, and they had 5 or 6 guest speakers there, and not one of them talked about taxing. And I myself know that taxing is very, very important when you've got decent amount of investment, because at the end of the year, every year for the last 4 years, I've had a $10,000 extra amount of money to pay to the government every year. I believe that people who are retired shouldn't be taxed anything. So I knew I had to find somebody that can do something in the tax department, because there's no sense in making a pile of money and then paying it all out to the government. As far as CRA goes, they don't even say thank you when you send them money. So I wanted to find the guy that could look after my money and be tax efficient at the same time. And that's the reason why I got a hold of you, because you're the only guy on the internet that talks about it. So I was happy to find somebody. I went through hundreds, not hundreds, but probably dozens of different people, and the talking about the insurance, that was exciting to me, that I could do too. You know, I never even thought of life insurance in an investment portfolio. I was happy to find somebody like that, and I'm glad you got in touch back with me. So, and now like I'm living down here 180 miles from Toronto, where you live, and I'm thinking, well, nobody's going to come way down here to see me anyway. So, but when you said that you're going to come down, I thought, wow, this thing's fallen in line for me, and I'm really excited by it. And so I had to meet you at least. So you came down, I met you. I could tell from when I talked to you that I could trust you. You weren't just out to get my money and run. You were able to do the work that it takes to manage something like this, keep in touch with me on a regular basis, and advise me on my education with the financing. I can see nothing but positive results getting you to do my management for me. So I'm really happy, and it takes a lot of pressure off me. Like I don't know, I really worry about my money going down the tube, and CRA taking a big bite out of it every year. And then, you know, I originally invested in RSPs to begin with, to get rid of this tax thing at the end, and I was kind of sold a false book of knowledge about RSPs being tax-free or tax advantage. And all I could see was all this money building up in my account. The numbers were nice, but I also seen, you know, the clawback and which account do I want to take the money out of, you know, to do it all in a tax efficient way, that I'm going to end up in a better spot. And I was happy with our initial meeting that you were able to explain that to me, how things work, that I had to have you there. I had to hire you to do the work.
Now thank you. Those are very kind, very generous words. It brings a big smile on my face seeing you say that and hearing that. Now you surprised me and you said people need to know this. People need to see how this has worked. And that's what really, I was surprised you said you need to to make a video about my life about how you're helping.
Yeah. When I was in the fire department, I was on the executive to look after the wage increases and negotiations and do all these different things for the firefighters to get their wages up to a decent level. And I think of all the guys that are in the different cities, all the firefighters that are in the different cities, I know for a fact that they don't know anything about how to tax efficiently, earn money and save it and protect it. And after I got talking to you, I knew that not just for me, but all my brothers that are in the different cities throughout Ontario, I'd like to get them to take a look at something like this, because why shouldn't they save money too? Because, the government's not going to tell you about it, that's for sure. But I want to see my brother firefighters that I've sat down with and negotiated with, and I want to see those guys looked after too. And I'd like to see that some extra guys that might see this and know that, like, I was just lucky to find David, because David was right up my alley. Every time I thought about it, I thought, wow, this guy is exactly what I need. That's what a lot of guys, that got a few bucks saved up from working at the fire department, that's what they need too. So that's the reason why I'm doing this. I pretty well begged David to.
You didn't beg me. You didn't beg me. You said, hey, would you mind coming down? And I just did. I mean, that's I think what everybody should be doing. But
3 hours out of your life one way, that's quite a thing you give. It's not like you say, well, geez, that guy's about 2 hours further away than I want to travel. Here he is in the middle of winter coming down here to see me and explain things to me. I feel well taken care of, and I'm happy with the service, that's for sure.
Okay, now, what'd you think of that? That was remarkable, generous of Tom to say all these things about how I helped him. And, when I got to meeting Tom and I saw his situation, the answer to his problems or his anxieties and his fears and worries, that I was shaking my head. I couldn't believe that this firm didn't see, and I got to work. So I'm going to share with you how I got to work and how I helped Tom. So let's introduce you to Tom and share with you about him. So Tom is a retired firefighter. He travels about 2 to 3 months of the year to all these exotic places in Latin America, South America, Central America. Loves to go there in the wintertime to get out of our cold winters. I don't blame him. He was looking to see what his maximum income could be. He wanted some tax savings. Obviously, he mentions that in the video about having some tax efficiency with his portfolio, and he wanted to elevate his estate value. Now, Thomas is, as I said, he's retired. He's 71 years of age now, and he just turned 71 in 2024. And he's single, and ladies, he wants you all to know that he's available. And I told him this isn't matchmaking, but he said he's single and he's looking for someone who wants to travel with him to all these great places in the wintertime. And he has one daughter who's independent working, and so please don't barrage me with your resumes, okay? Let's talk about some of the financials so you know about Tom. And by the way, this is his idea. He approached me and he said, I don't mind you sharing, I'm just not going to share last names. And he didn't want to be on camera. That makes sense, right? But he said, go ahead and tell them all about me and how you help. So Tom has a pension. He's a retired firefighter. He's got a pension that gives him about $40,000 a year in pension earnings, about $18,000 a year in CPP and old age security. He's got a $2 million non-registered portfolio. And he's got $450,000 in a RIF that gives him about $23,000 of annual income. So his expenses are about $75,000 a year after tax. And of course, much of his CPP, old age security, his private pension, and the RIF are kind of getting him close to that $75,000. So he doesn't really need to use up a whole lot of his investments. That's a good and a bad thing. And I'm going to share that with you in the video when we get into the actual plan. He lives in a modest home, and he wants to point out again, ladies, I don't know, because he's a handyman, he built this home that's not his home. It looks a lot like it, by the way, but he built a really big house, beautiful fireplaces everywhere, and he wants to move into this home. And actually, again, it looks very similar to that. Everything's reversed in real life. The stairs are on the right side. But he bought this house He's ready. He's renovating it. It says it's going to take him about a month to renovate it all. 2-bedroom home. He's going to move in there, get out of the big house that he's in. It's big. He's 71, lots of home to clean and to look after and to worry about when he's away. And he's thinking better to be in a smaller footprint, less to worry about when you're away, easy to clean, simplifies life. I talk to you a lot about many people downsize to simplify their life, to make life a lot easier to get through the day and not worry about your home. So he's moving into this beautiful house and he's going to take off and go away. And when I say South America, we're talking Buenos Aires, we're talking going to Ecuador and Chile, Central America, Latin America. I mean, he loves the hot weather and getting out there. So I don't blame him. Let's get out of Canada with this cold weather. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you into the planning pages and show you exactly how I saved $823,000 for him. Okay, so let's go to that. Right, here we are. We're looking at what's called the base plan. This is when we send you the PDF document, you fill in all the information, you return that document to us. This is that planning questionnaire that we talk about in the videos. And you give us all your information. We put all that into the software. We start to make sure, first of all, do we have accurate information? We'll talk to you on the phone and we'll say, okay, let's go through the data that you've provided, make sure that we've interpreted it correctly, and then from there we'll start building out your scenarios. This is the base scenario. This is who you are today. So whenever you're thinking about, how are things going to improve, we compare that improvement to this base plan. And then we can also take the various scenarios that we do and compare them against one another to see how one planning decision stacks up beside another planning decision. So in this case, this is the base plan. I'll walk you through the base plan and then I'll show you exactly how we improved everything. So he wants to spend about $75,000. So he figures he's going to spend $50,000 to $60,000 in his real expenses. So this is the after-tax expense that we all talk about. And it goes up with inflation. And you've got a travel budget here. So in fact, when I talked to Tom, I said, Tom, I really don't think you're spending $61,000 a year. You live such a modest life. And especially if you shrink your footprint and go into a smaller home, property tax is going to be smaller, heating is going to be, and electricity and water usage, all that's going to be a lot smaller. So I don't think you're going to do that. So what we did was we dropped that down to about $50,000 and we increased the travel budget. So, I mean, still the same amount of money, but being spent in different areas of his life. He's got his pension coming in here. You can see it's about $49,000. And CPP Old Age Security is already getting that. He's 71 years of age. And what you notice right here, this column, this is really important for you to see. He has a clawback of his old age security every single year. And why does he have that? Well, he's got this right here, this money sitting in an account that he doesn't really need all that money. And he's got a RIF, and he doesn't really have any TFSA money. So everything's been lumped into his RIF account. He's like, okay, I'm never going to get through that. He's going to pass away if he just does the minimum withdrawal at age 95. He's going to have $145,000 left to go to CRA, and he's also not spending all of his money, so he's being taxed on money that he's never going to spend, and so he's passing away. As you can see, this non-registered account, despite doing withdrawals, is climbing. It's just increasing, passes away with $2.7 million in his non-registered account. So that is not a good outcome. You can see his tax rate here, 23%, 24% almost, all the way through his life. And that's largely because he's got the pension, CPP, old age security, and he's paying tax on the non-registered investment. Now, something about the non-registered investment. You mentioned, or Tom mentioned in the meeting how the old advisor, the firm that he was dealing with, well, it didn't really seem to understand him or pay attention to him that much, because when I received his statements, I saw that they were using one fund for all of that money in the RIF account, in the same fund for the non-registered account. So what was good for a RIF account was also good for the non-registered account, which was absolute absurdity. And so I explained to Tom, in a non-registered portfolio, you're totally exposed to taxation, which he's aware, because he kept saying, I'm paying money, a lot of money at the end of the year, to Canada Revenue. So I said, look, you should really have a different portfolio and a different risk tolerance in the non-registered portfolio and a different type of allocation in your RIF. And so we looked at, obviously, without, I'll bring you into the next slide, but looking at dividend income for the non-registered portfolio, and then in the RIF portfolio, we still had some dividends, a little bit of equity, but we're also doing all the withdrawals out of money market. And so we talk about that in other videos up here when I talk about the 3-bucket rule. You may have seen videos that talk about the cash wedge strategy, but I'm going to get into that and you'll see that in a second. And then when you look at the estate value, you can see if we go all the way down here to the bottom of the page, $236,000. I'll just pop this open. You can see $236,000 in taxes. So not ideal. Leaving money behind, being taxed along the way. You can see here the tax on it is $1 million. Not really happy about that. That's a cumulative tax throughout his lifetime. So there's got to be a better situation. Here's a 71-year-old who's going out to an event. They're putting all these slides on about the economy and how unemployment and the price of oil. And I got to tell you that if you are an advisor, I know there are advisors watching my channel, and good, because I love giving education, but if you're an advisor and you're putting on these events where you're talking about the economics of the world and how smart you are and clever you are, and I know you are, but your client doesn't want to know that. They already have this assumption that you understand these things, and that's why they're talking to you, and that's why you're managing their money. What they want to know is that you understand them, that you hear your client, that you understand your client, and you're bringing solutions that are going to live their life in a much tax efficient way, reduce their anxiety, and overall just have a great feeling about day to day about their money and not having to worry about that and just worry about living their life. And so put on events that talk about how they can enjoy how you're going to help them, the solutions that you're going to bring. That would be probably a better idea for your client to sit through a 2-hour or 3-hour session. Anyway, enough of my soapbox. Let's get back to this here. So let me show you now what I did to help Tom out. So right away you can see here that, as I said before, we reduced the annual real expense. So what's your real expense? Just to refresh you, this is what it costs you to live your life, but not including any debt payments, not including putting deposits to money, just really about utilities, groceries, date night, putting gas in the car, just enjoying your life, but not travel. That says in addition to travel. So you'll notice here it's $51,000 plus the $20,000. So we dropped it down from 61 down to 51, and we added that money back into his travel budget. Now he can spend more money, but I mean he's a very modest guy, and I tell him you should actually spend more money, and I think he'll probably do that. The next thing is that he was going to downsize from this big house to the smaller house. So we're showing here's the downsize, right? So we're downsizing from about $1 million home down to what is probably going to be worth something like $400,000 after the renovation. That money gets deposited to his tax-free savings account a little bit because he's already filled up that amount, and the rest goes to a non-registered account. So now he's got a much larger amount of money in here. But the problem all along was that he was going to be paying tax on money he was never spending. And so what I said to him, and by the way, before I get into the other solution, I'll just show you, one of the things here we did was I looked at his tax rate, which has dropped. You might see that from the previous slide. He's doing a minimum withdrawal in his RIF because his tax rate was quite high up here, or higher up here, and it was lower in the later part of his life. So I started the RIF meltdown later on, allow the RIF to just simply do the minimum withdrawal, and then I started the RIF meltdown and got him out of his RIF. So that's not in the plan. That's not going to be there for the taxation that Canada Revenue will pick up. So immediately we saved that on the estate value. We're totally funding his tax-free savings account, so we're able to absorb that into his tax-free savings account, and now we've got this money that he's never going to spend. So I said, Tom, let me present an idea to you, and you tell me what you think about it. And it's about tax sheltering some of your money into whole life insurance. And he said, okay, have at it. And he watched a lot of videos, by the way, my videos on my channel and other videos in other people's channel. And he said, I've watched it. I'm ready to talk about it. I went down again, saw him. All we did was talk about insurance. And I explained to him how you can move money from your non-registered account into whole life insurance. It's going to sit there. It's not going to be paying any tax on the growth because it's going to receive a dividend every year. And you're no longer going to be taxed on that money. It's going to be sitting in your life insurance. So in this example, we showed him putting $200,000 a year. Here you go. You see this column? And then we're only putting it in for a number of years, and then we stop funding the policy. So these deposits, all this money, you can see the cash value, $1.7 million in cash, and it's continuing to rise, the cash value, $2.8 million later on in life. He's got this death benefit. And so now we've sheltered all this money from his non-registered portfolio. You can see he's got this money here, and it's diminishing down to zero. He doesn't need the money. And all that money gets pushed into the life insurance. And then any excess money that he has as a result of the RIF meltdown is being deposited to his non-registered account. So because of this one strategy, well, because of the RIF meltdown, because of the way that we're using this money differently and shifting some of it into life insurance, his tax rate has dropped all the way through. And what else did you notice? Is that the clawback is also done as well. It's lowered slightly here in the first 5 years, and then it's gone the rest of his life. So because of those types of strategies that I've employed, we've made sure that he's paying less money in taxes. We've elevated his estate value with the insurance. We've sheltered all that non-registered portfolio into the insurance. It's available to him at any point if he wants it. Brilliant strategy. And the other thing that we did, that the other company, and this is the thing that I was surprised the company didn't catch, he was turning 71. And I said, do you realize you can make an RSP contribution before the end of the year, and that'll offset some of the capital gains you've been experiencing in your non-registered portfolio? And he said, nobody's ever said that I can do that. And I said, but we have a short window here. We have 3 weeks, because I met him in December. Like, we started all this process in December. I said, I've got to do the movement of your money so that I can manage your money. I've got to do the deposit into an RSP account. I've got to do then RIF that account, and then combine the RIFs together so that you get just one deposit, not two deposits into your checking account. And we had to do all that inside of 3 weeks before the end of the year. So that was able to save him further a lot more money. I think it was somewhere around $85,000. So those combination of things, I understood what was going on with him and what he needed to have done and how to help him. And sadly, the other company just didn't recognize that. The only thing they wanted to do was RIF his money and put it into the same fund. And they clearly didn't understand, or didn't want to take the time to understand him. And he's not a small client, right? This is a gentleman with a lot of money. So very surprised that they didn't catch that. But in any case, so let's show you now some of the outcomes, okay? All right, the first one is about $400,000 in cumulative savings. So remember that where I said there was about $1 million in taxation. So we're able to save them about $400,000 year over year when you add up all those savings from the RIF meltdown, pushing money into the insurance, less of a clawback, all these things. There's about $400,000 of tax savings. The second thing is we've saved him about $200,000 in a clawback. So instead of having that money clawed back, he's now got it in his pocket, which is really cool. And you heard Tom talking about he's not happy about the taxation for seniors. He doesn't believe, as many as you do, don't believe you should be taxed in retirement, certainly on your Canada pension plan. And he was really upset that he's losing much of his old age security, and now we've got it back for him. And then the next thing is we've eliminated the tax. The tax on his estate, as you saw before, was somewhere around $236,000, and it went down to $5,000 for the taxes on his estate. So it's a remarkable outcome. Of course, the only way that you're going to be able to know how this might work for you is you got to get a financial plan done. I say that all the time. I keep banging you guys over the head. You got to call me up. You got to email me and say, can we talk about our situation? And we just go through your situation over the phone to figure out whether or not I can help you. And then it's as simple as just doing a plan and having a few meetings to be able to make sure that you can have a great outcome like this. Well, it was great seeing you in this video. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please put your comments below. I really want you to put your comments below because I know Tom's going to want to hear about what kind of work we did for him. And again, as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks, and be well.